So I recently got tagged in a video that was a duet of a video that was a stitch of a video that was a comment response of another video, and I'm not sure where I was supposed to fit in with the whole thing. But one particular creator was trying to explain his perspective on why he didn't want to vote for Biden by using the trolley problem logic experiment. If you don't know the trolley problem, it's that a trolley or a runaway train is barreling towards a group of people that are tied to the track, but you have the ability to switch tracks to a track where there is one person tied to the track, and it's the moral or ethical question of, do you sacrifice one for the good of the many? Or do you make the choice to do nothing and sacrifice many, but even that choice of inaction is still a choice of action? Then that particular creator goes on to say that there's a third option where you can sacrifice yourself to save everyone, and he tries to parallel that to, you know, people protesting and sacrificing possibly their education and their future for the greater good, which y'all know I'm 100% in support of, but it's not really a parallel. That analogy doesn't work in the trolley problem because you can't sacrifice yourself to stop the trolley. I mean, you can sacrifice yourself, sure, but the trolley's going to keep on going. And it doesn't work in the terms of the next presidential election because regardless of what happens or anything that we do, Biden or Trump is going to be the next president. As much as we all absolutely hate it, it's one or the other. I tried explaining that to my guy in the comments there, and he's like, oh, so let's let Biden keep killing people because Trump will also continue the genocide. That's grade A logic there. And he went on this tangent calling me blue MAGA and shit, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. So I figured I'd walk us all through this slowly in a video. First off, my guy here seems to think that there is some realistic third option in November. Now I'm gonna tell you, I 100% understand the frustration of being forced into our two-party system. I understand the want or desire to vote third party. I understand the desire to just sit it out and not vote at all as protest. And because I'm pragmatic, I can't endorse that decision, but I can't criticize people for it either because I understand the way that they feel, and those feelings are valid. But I will say, if you're making that decision, I hope you're making it on the objective and statistical facts that there is no possible way that anybody other than Biden or Trump is going to be elected in November. There is no oh but maybe, there isn't a if so-and-so does this and we all do that. Well, the Electoral College exists, and without ranked choice voting, those are the two options. And as much as I would love that to happen, the election system isn't going to change in the next 6 months. If you're voting Jill Stein or RFK or whatever, do it because you feel that that protest vote is the best way to make your voice heard. But for the love of God, if you're voting that way because you actually think that they're going to win, please come back to reality with us. It is literally systemically impossible. That being said, let's use the trolley problem that my guy here was utilizing to make his point. One track is Trump, one track is Biden. Both tracks have lots of people on them. But the whole point of the trolley problem is whose track has less people. Now let's keep in mind that what's going on in the Middle East right now is in large part Trump's fault, because Trump emboldened Bibi more than any other president in the past. Remember that Trump upset decades of precedent in 2017 by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital when we've always recognized it as Tel Aviv, in part to keep relations calmer in the Middle East. It's a pretty bold fucking statement that the U.S. will stand behind Bibi regardless of what he does and regardless of what the international community says. And remember, one of Trump's major campaign platforms was just straight up Islamophobia. This is a fact we all know. Now, Biden absolutely has blood on his hands in this whole situation too. There is no question about it. But Biden doesn't have a proactive Islamophobic campaign platform. Biden has at least paid lip service to the idea that Bibi should maybe show a little restraint. And while Biden's trying to restrain Bibi's escalations with Iran, Trump escalated with Iran to the point we nearly entered World War III. So if we're looking at the number of lives on Biden's track versus Trump, well, yeah, there's a lot on both, but there's far more on Trump's track. But the full picture is important, and we can't stop there. How many more lives are at stake with another Trump-appointed justice on the Supreme Court? How many more lives are at stake if a GOP trifecta passes more abortion bans or more anti-LGBTQ legislation? How many steps back from the systemic change that you want, that you are preaching for, that we all want, that I preach for, are we going to take if a GOP trifecta passes more anti-voting legislation, anti-democratic legislation? What happens when a GOP trifecta actually overturns the results of an election and just installs who they want to be president? There is a path, be it long and arduous, towards a more perfect democracy. That path winds through primaries and local and down-ballot elections and midterm elections. That path winds through ballot referendums and petitions and protests. But every one of those steps, every one of those rights to get there is fragile. They are not guaranteed, and one group of people is working to make sure that we don't have those. So make sure you keep that in mind. Like I said, I'm not going to vilify you if you feel like a third-party protest vote is the best way to make your voice heard. But make sure you understand what that vote actually means, and please make sure you still vote down ballot. And I'm going to leave you with this. Same way that I just called out people for criticizing and vilifying people who feel the way that you do, I'm calling out you for this bullshit. You tagged me, you knocked on my door and asked for my input on something, and when I gave it, it wasn't exactly what you wanted, so you call me blue MAGA. I and people like me on both sides are still your ally. But you treating me and anybody left of Trump like the enemy makes you no different and no better than the vote blue no matter who, blue MAGA, whatever bullshit you are criticizing and railing against. See, when I said we need to stop the infighting and all work together to do better together, that goes both ways, your way too. And if you're familiar with my content, you should appreciate that I'm trying to lead by example and be respectful despite your abrasive comments towards me, because you know that I can go a very different direction with these things. But I'm doing my best to be the example of what I preach, and I think it's time you do too.